Stern broke new ground when they installed a wobbling dildo into the back of their James Bond pinball machine recently. However, Jersey Jack Pinball have taken pinball innovation to a whole new level by inserting a mechanised pianist into the back of their Elton John. And I'll tell you what, it works, and it works very, very well, because I do think that Jersey Jack are back in the game. Now, I'm aware for some of you, Jersey Jack were never out of the game, but for me, as a consideration for a pinball machine to buy, it just wasn't an option. Look, the price is still high. The price is still too high. I don't know what the prices are over in the States, but it seems like probably the most expensive pinball machine you can buy. Yes, I know the Bond Limited 60th edition and things like that go for silly money, £25,000 and that sort of thing. But in terms of, I guess you would say, a mass-produced pinball machine, certainly you'd say that Jersey Jack are the most expensive. But they are, I guess, the Rolls-Royce of pinball. And I've always looked that way. I've always looked at a Jersey Jack pinball machine and thought, it's very grand, it's palatial, it looks like the sort of piano that Liberace would play. However, I haven't found that the gameplay itself matched the look of the game. So I thought Jersey Jack probably made very nice pinball machines, but I'm not sure how good the game was. However, I think now they've hired Steve Ritchie, it looks like he's sorted out a lot of that other stuff. We know they can do the lights. We know they can build the big screen. We know they can sprinkle glitter all over it. They can do zhuzh, glitz and glamour like nobody else. Nobody does eye candy like Jersey Jack Pinball. However, I think they got the right guy in to do the job, because nobody knows ramps and flippers quite like Steve Ritchie. And I think the combination of the two appear to have made an absolute triumph of a game in Elton John. Now, I'm not going to pretend to have played this. I haven't. I'm just going off what friends have said who've played it at the Chicago Expo. And of course, like the rest of you guys, I've watched a load of separate videos, and I'm very, very excited by it. I'd go as far as to say that Jersey Jack have now become a viable option for me if I'm looking and choosing a pinball machine. Look, it's not like I can just go out there and just spend this money. Something would have to go. I would have to sell something to fund the purchase, and I would have to save up one. However, I don't mind doing that if that pinball machine is worth it. And I do think they're starting to hit the heights that some other pinball companies have, and there's no better time for choice at the moment, as I remarked in my last video. I just didn't think that they were one of the options. CGC were an option. Stern, obviously, are always an option. I love my Dutch Pinball, Big Lebowski. I'm very excited to see what they announce next, and I think I'm pretty certain they've got enough credit in the bank that whatever they do next, I'll be getting one of those. I love some of the stuff that's coming out from American Pinball, and I've been very impressed with some of the spooky machines. Not spent enough time on a TNA, a Total Nuclear Annihilation, but it's a great game, right? I think the first time I ever saw Halloween, I was really impressed how they got the double playfield to work as well as it did. They'd obviously put a lot of effort and a lot of love into it. I suspect that Pulp Fiction is going to be really good. Cactus Canyon itself is an amazing game. These were all options for me. So when we're looking at new releases coming out, the rumour is that Stern are going to bring Jaws out. Possibly it might be Keith Elwin on design. As someone that owns a Godzilla, that's something that's going to be appealing, going to be attractive. And it was one of the options when I was looking at 2 or 3 games. What would I possibly get as my purchase in 2024? However, I've got to say that Jersey Jack Pinball have thrown themselves right into the mix with this latest game. Now, I've never enjoyed the gameplay. I was going to say I've never enjoyed the gameplay experience of Jersey Jack. That's not true. Certainly playing The Hobbit was an amazing experience. It was completely immersive. When I played The Hobbit, I felt like I was in the film. I really did feel that they had created that Tolkien world around the pinball machine. It was beautiful. The sound was great, really bassy. I know it's had a lot of criticism, the sound on a Jersey Jack pinball, but it worked pretty well for me. I don't know if the one I played, the sound, the speakers have been changed, but it was excellent, particularly when you get into that Schmaug multi-ball and The dragon is voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch, is moving around on the screen, and the dragon in the middle of the playfield is doing his stuff, and yeah, it's immersive and it's really, really good. What I felt let that down, and what I feel has let all of the Jersey Jack pinballs down, has been the flipper action. It felt weak. Some people say mushy. I quite like that as a description. I was struggling to find a word to describe it myself, but mushy might do it. It's unresponsive would be that. They didn't feel as snappy. They didn't have as I guess as much intent as some other flippers. And I think when you're used to having stern machines, you're used to a very, very direct and very snappy flipper action. And I think for that reason, Jersey Jack was just never an option. I would have loved a Hobbit pinball machine, but there's one reason I don't get one, and that's those flippers. I just can't really be dealing with it. Recently, I mentioned it in the previous video that Pinball Brothers have brought out Alien. Alien, I've been lucky enough to have an Alien here. It's extremely atmospheric. Again, it's very immersive. The sound is exceptional on that game. And I would really honestly consider having one. I think in terms of value, there's not much better than an Alien, it has to be said. But the flippers, again, and it's not just on Alien, I found the same on Queen when I played Queen. So I do wonder how much these companies are aware of that, and then for them to go on and fix it. Clearly, it's something that either Jersey Jack were aware of, or when Steve Ritchie went in as a designer, perhaps he said you've got to go and sort your flipper action out. Apparently, everything I'm hearing is that the flippers are excellent, and they're boasting about it as well. You can hear Jersey Jack are saying this. If you go onto the Jersey Jack website, and you can look at the 2 editions, which I think is a collector's edition, and I think it's a platinum edition. It's so confusing. I don't know why pinball companies do this. Maybe for everybody else it's fine. I just wish they would stop feeling the need to do something different. Why can't the limited edition on every pinball machine be the best one? You know, and then we sort of know where we are. You know, call something for what it is. I basically want to know what the bottom one is, what the standard version is, what the middle version is, and I want to know what the top version is. They change the names; it makes it very, very confusing. So I'm reluctant to say what Jersey Jack's Elton John ones are, because I'm probably going to get it wrong. But they got a beautiful golden one, which I think is the top edition, and they've got their lesser model, which is about £2,000 or £3,000 less. Yeah, I think it might be the platinum edition. I might have it wrong, but when you go onto their website and it lists all the features for each individual game, you read it. They're boasting about the flipper power. They're boasting about how sort of direct and snappy these flippers are. It's going to be a really, really big win for them. I think the other thing that it appears they've done is they've lessened the multi-ball. And that was really important because, look, if you play pinball, this is my view anyway, multi-ball's a treat. It's something to be achieved. I love multi-ball. I love the chaos of it. But I like to feel that I've earned it. I like to feel that it's a reward. Certainly on some of their games, and I know Guns N' Roses was a big culprit for this. It was just multi-ball after multi-ball. It ceased to become special. I think another criticism of them, you're not entirely sure what to do on it, and maybe they go over the top with their diverters, and I think, as I understand it, Godfather, still not played one. I'd love to play one. It was a lot of innovation in terms of different diverters and paths the ball could take. You know what? Sometimes you just want to hit a ramp and know where it's coming from, and I think, again, using someone like Steve Ritchie, who, let's be fair, has not got the biggest variation in pinball design. Getting someone like him on board is no bad thing, actually, because whilst it might not be good for Stern to produce another sort of Ritchie design, and they're going in a different direction with Jack Danger and Keith Elwin, I think what was lacking from Jersey Jack was the gameplay. And if there's anybody you want to sort out your gameplay to get your machine flowing, then that very much is the guy, is the right guy in the right place at the right time. So, I mean, well done, Steve Ritchie. I very much look forward to playing this game. You can see influences from some of his other games. I've heard people mention Spider-Man. I've heard people mention AC/DC. You could see it. You could see Star Trek in there. Certainly, when I saw it, the first thing I saw was the 3 banks of targets there. I thought, oh, that has a little Star Wars look about it. And I don't know if they're going to be multipliers. Don't know. Haven't played the game. But I think this game is exciting. It was a very downbeat, not response to the game, but it was a build-up, very downbeat build-up. There were a lot of people critical of Jersey Jack for even making this pinball machine. A lot of people said if you go back on the archives, this wouldn't work. This is a bad thing. And I don't think it is. I think it is. It will work. It looks absolutely beautiful. But look, all their machines look stunning. Is there a better machine? Certainly when I ask my children, Willy Wonka looks like the best pinball machine they've ever seen. And it is a triumph. You look at the Yellow Brick Roads, a Wizard of Oz, for instance. So many of these look beautiful, and we know they can do that. But he seems to have managed to put together all the best that Jersey Jack had and sort of got rid of the worst, and that makes him a real viable option. It has to be said. And what was really quite stark was looking at the build up to the release. And then people, once they'd looked at it and they'd seen the machine, say, well, actually, this looks pretty good. This is not too bad. I think for a lot of people, it won't be a viable option because, let's be fair here, at 12 to £15,000, depending on which model you want, you can get a couple of very good pinball machines for that. So it has to be amazing. But I think if it is amazing, you don't mind. It still is too high. So even the base model, the lowest model of Jersey Jack Elton John, is still more expensive than the Big Lebowski, which is packed, and it is not. It has the best of both worlds. It's a magnificent pinball machine, but it's a really good game as well. They fitted it all really, really well together. But I'll just go back to what I said on the previous video. Now is the time. I don't think there's been any better time for new in-box. The choice you have is huge. And somebody said to me the other day that they believe a lot of people are saving up their money for Jaws, Keith Elwin's Jaws. Maybe they are, and that may well be the case. But there are other options now. And you're going to wait. I mean, if Back to the Future's coming out, if obviously Elton John's coming out and looks as good as it does, if Labyrinth has just been brought out as well, you've got the Ripley edition of Alien. There's some real good competition now on this, and I don't think it's as certain as you might think. And I certainly know that if Jaws is going to be anything like Godzilla, then the premium is going to probably be the way to go on that in terms of all the mechanisms. And if you look at that, then that starts putting it price-wise into the sort of realms of Lebowski. Probably, I'd imagine a Stern Premium will probably be a little bit less than the base model of Jersey Jack, but I don't think there'll be a lot in it. And as a friend of mine always says, you know what? If you've got £12,000 to spend on a pinball machine, you've probably got £13,000 to spend on a pinball machine. It doesn't look perfect, Elton John. It doesn't. I don't like the Tiny Dancer bit. I think it actually looks like one of the models of. It looks like one of the pole dancers of The Sopranos. And I love Sopranos. What a great game. In fact, I need to put that on the top 50 sooner rather than later. That's a great game. A great game, Sopranos. But the Tiny Dancer bit, I think that's probably my least favourite toy on it. But as I say, I love the pianist. I love the piano, and I love that sort of LED board along the side of the grand piano. I think that looks really great. The light show looks amazing. The screen looks great. What's not to like about this pinball machine apart from the spinning pole dancer? Maybe you'll change the lyrics to the song. But you know what? I think well done, JJP. Well done. I think they were. I don't know how many. I can't claim to know how many pinball machines get sold, but from the outside looking in, it looked like their last 3 releases hadn't done as well as they'd have wanted, which were obviously Guns N' Roses. I think it sold well, but they had the problems with the playfield. I think Toy Story, well, it was Toy Story 4 and not Toy Story, and it didn't have the claw in it, which was a big miss on a mechanism. They should have put that in. Godfather, couldn't honestly tell you, but I think they got the announcement wrong. when there was the last batch of games that were announced, Stern killed it because they announced Foo Fighters, and a lot of people put their deposits down. And then there was this big rush of other games that were going to come out, which was going to be obviously Godfather, Scooby-Doo, a lot of other stuff got announced, Pulp Fiction. But Stern got in there first. They were very, very smart. I think the smart play this time has been by Jersey Jack. They've got this game out at the Expo. And I think it's you're playing a game of getting people's deposits, aren't you, I guess. And I do think that it might have been absolutely great timing, a really good game that's been really well received. I haven't heard a bad review about it yet. And you know, having been, whilst I haven't been at an expo in the States before, certainly haven't been at Pinfest in the UK, even as recently this year, a working game that sort of wows everyone set aside next to a game which has apparently, you know, been breaking down a little bit and has beset with initial problems. And you're going to get teething problems on a pinball machine. The deposit money tends to go towards the working game. So again, well done to JJP for getting the game there, getting it up, getting it out, working, and for people playing it. So yeah, there you go. Jersey Jack Pinball back in a game. I'd be very interested to know your thoughts in the comments below. And I'd be even more interested to know if you're planning on getting one.